Hey guys, and welcome back to this week's episode. All the B-roll that you just saw was filmed with the lens that we're going to be talking about this week, and that's the SIRUI 50mm 1.8 anamorphic lens. By the way, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you can be part of the channel, and as well, stay tuned to the end of the video for this week's shoutout. So some of you might be asking right now, what is an anamorphic lens? And basically, an anamorphic lens is going to allow you to get that look and feel like in Transformers made by Michael Bay, where you have this epic flares in those cinematic wide shots. Up until this point, it's actually been quite hard to get your hands on an anamorphic lens because they're super expensive. Just for kicks, I wanted to research how much does a cine anamorphic lens cost, and they can be from anywhere from $40,000 to all the way up to $98,000, I believe. That's as much as a Tesla costs, and that's how much cine anamorphic lenses cost. But now, SIRUI has put out a very affordable and very high quality anamorphic lens for only $600. So that's why today we're going to be doing a full review on the SIRUI 50mm 1.8 anamorphic lens, just to help you guys know if it's a lens worth investing or not. But before I get into the pros and cons of the SIRUI 50mm 1.8 anamorphic lens, first I just want to explain to you what does an anamorphic lens actually do and how does it work. Basically, an anamorphic lens allows you to get a wider perspective without losing the resolution. You know, for a lot of us YouTubers, we're adding these black crop bars on top of the footage in order to get that wide cinematic feel, but we're losing a lot of the footage. We're losing the whole top half and the whole bottom half. And essentially, when you use an anamorphic lens, it takes a wider perspective and squeezes it together, and then that way you get that wide feel without losing the resolution. Now, when you are filming, it does look a little bit funky because it's really squeezed in and people's heads look really long, but then you can just change that in post. All you gotta do in Premiere is just choose all the footage, go modify, interpret footage, and then conform to the anamorphic look 1.3 because the SIRUI 50mm 1.8 is a 1.3x lens. If you want to avoid filming with that squeezed looking footage in the camera, you can also use a monitor that will automatically de-squeeze the footage for you, so while you're filming, it looks right. It was actually quite hard in the beginning to film just with the lens alone because everything's really squeezed and it just doesn't look right and it's hard to hit the focus. But then when I started using the monitor that I borrowed from my office mate Rope, I was able to get the right look and as well get the focus right. Another cool feature of anamorphic lenses is that you get these really cool sci-fi looking lens flares that you wouldn't get normally with lenses. Basically, whenever you get a really bright light shining into the lens, whether that's car lights or some sort of building lights, you can get these nice flares, especially when the lighting is a bit darker. And I wouldn't use this look for all the projects I'm using, but if you want those cool lens flares to get that cinematic look and also to get that cinematic wide feeling, then the anamorphic lens is perfect for you. Now, my first thoughts when I opened the box and I pulled out the SIRUI 50mm anamorphic lens, it's really small, but when you pick it up, it has a weight to it. I'm not saying it's gonna be too heavy that's gonna be a burden to you, but it just really shows that it's a really good build quality. The material, it's a nice metal, it's not very plasticky like some lenses are. As well, something I've really loved with this lens is the manual focus ring. It's really smooth, it's big so you can easily hold on to it. Really enjoyed that. As well, some people love having a manual aperture ring so that you have a smooth exposure change rather than, you know, on an electronic lens, you change apertures and all of a sudden you just hear the click going click and the exposure jumps quite a lot. So you get a nice smooth transition when you're using the aperture ring. So those are really great features on the SIRUI 50mm 1.8 lens. As well, when filming with the anamorphic lens, you get that nice oval bokeh shaped look. It just gives a really distinct look to your footage. Some people love this, some people don't, but whatever floats your boat. If you like that look, great, go for it. If you don't like it, then don't use anamorphic lenses. Now on to sharpness. Everyone loves a good old sharpness test. We tested the lens going from f1.8 all the way to f8. And when we started out f1.8, of course, it was not the sharpest. I think all lenses, when they're wide open, are a little bit soft. At f2, it got a little bit better. Then at f2.8 and then f4, especially at f4, it started getting really, really sharp. And then at f5.6 and f8, it got still sharp, but maybe not as sharp as when it was at f4, f5.6. So somewhere in there at f4, it seemed like it was the sharpest. really sharp lens, I gotta say. Really impressed if you want to get really nice, sharp, cinematic looking footage. So the pros and cons of this SIRUI 50mm 1.8 anamorphic lens. First off, I think that the lens has a really great build quality. I really like the fact that it's not just some cheap plastically lens, but you can actually see that it's built well. Secondly, you can get that really nice cinematic wide shots while getting that nice depth of field, which you can't get with every lens possible. Thirdly, I really like the lens flares. I think they actually look pretty sick. Even some of the shots we got with Aqua while filming in my city, I was just like, woo, that looks good. And it's always a good thing when you're pumped about the look of the footage that you're getting out of your camera. And lastly, I love the manual focus ring on the lens. I'm used to shooting with manual lenses, so for me, I really enjoy and really prefer having a great, smooth manual focus ring. Now, some cons of the lens. I don't always want to just praise every single product I try out because, well, no product is perfect, and I want to inform you guys about all the pros and all the cons. With the SIRUI 50mm 1.8 anamorphic lens, one thing that is a bit of a downer is that it can't shoot autofocus. So if you do want to have the option of having autofocus, you can't. You need to shoot everything in manual. So it's probably not the best vlogging or a YouTube lens for yourself, but it is a great lens when you're filming cinematic footage, for example, B-roll of other people. Another downside is at the moment they don't have a Canon mount. And I like shooting with Canon cameras, but unfortunately don't, so I was shooting this lens with the GH5 for all the footage for this video. And the last thing that I find is a con is that it's a 50mm lens, and plus the crop of the camera, it's actually quite a tight lens. I would love to try out this exact same lens in a 24mm, for example. I think it would be really interesting to see what kind of look you would get out of the lens. But all in all, even though there is some cons, the fact that you can get an anamorphic lens for $600, well, that's incredible. Because yeah, who wants to spend $98,000 for a Cine anamorphic lens? I think I'd rather buy the Tesla. So even though there are some cons, I think the pros of the price point and the quality and what you get out of this lens is well worth the $600. If you are interested in getting this lens, I will make sure to link it below so you can check that out for yourself. Alright, that's it for this week's video, but before I sign up, I do want to have the shout out moment. The heart behind the shout out moment is that I want to highlight up and coming YouTube content creators, because I know the feeling that when you're creating great content but people are just not seeing it, man, it's just frustrating. So I, as a YouTube content creator, want to help out other YouTube content creators by doing a shout out. And in order to participate in the weekly shout out, all you got to do is comment below and be a part of this community, and that way next week I can do the shout out. But this week's shout out goes to Jussi Alexander. I actually had the privilege of meeting Jussi last week at the Canon Rajala workshop here in Helsinki, where I was teaching about vlogging and how to start a YouTube channel. Great guy, and as well, he's putting out great content. Just recently, he put a great video about how to film handheld footage and make it smooth. I checked it out, really loved it. So if you're interested in that topic, make sure you go check out his channel, subscribe to it, give him some love. As well, if you are new to the channel and you're not subscribed to my channel yet, well, I would love to have you a part of this community. So just click here, subscribe, and as well, if you want to see last week's video, which is a behind the scenes of my YouTube studio equipment, click here. All right, guys, have a fantastic week.